You've been here before. Long before you opened your eyes in this life, your soul made a choice, a quiet decision beyond memory. It chose this exact moment, this body, this life with all its twists, beauty, and hardship. It wasn't random. It never is. But the moment you were born, you forgot. That was part of the design. From your first breath, you were ushered into a world that taught you to look outward, not inward. You were given a name, wrapped in a culture, handed beliefs. The world began shaping your identity before you even knew you had one. And as you learned to speak, you also learned to forget. They taught you that life begins at birth and ends at death. That reality is what you can touch, that your body is who you are, that the world is physical, material, and that everything else, dreams, intuition, that quiet pull in your chest, is just imagination. But something inside you always knew better. That moment when you meet someone and feel like you've known them forever? Not coincidence. The dream that stayed with you, vivid and strange, echoing some life you never lived? Not fantasy. The sudden fear of water, the instant comfort in an unfamiliar place, the sense that you've done all this before. They're whispers, glimpses, echoes. Your soul remembers. And the world you see around you? It's a stage, a beautifully convincing illusion. You were placed in a nursery, taught to walk, to speak, to fit in. But none of it was ever meant to show you who you are, only to distract you from remembering. The world dressed you in layers of identity, but none of them are truly yours. Nationality, race, religion, gender, roles, expectations, all of it, noise. Because the truth is far deeper. You are not just a body, not just a story, not just one life in a long timeline. You are awareness itself, moving, watching, remembering. But the illusion is strong. It wraps around you like fog. You're taught that success is accumulation, that happiness comes from achievement, and that your worth is measured by what you produce. And so, you chase. You run. You climb ladders built by others. You do what you're told. You live how you're expected to live. Go to school, get a job, buy things, start a family, grow old, and eventually disappear. But deep down, something stirs, a quiet resistance, a question. Is this really all there is? Because what if, before you were born, you already knew this world was an illusion? What if your soul chose to come here, not out of obligation, but out of purpose, to grow, to experience, to remember? Earth is not a prison, it's a classroom, and you are not here to be trapped, you're here to wake up. From the instant you arrived in this world, forgetting began. You were not handed a manual for your soul, only instructions for survival. You were taught how to behave, how to succeed, how to conform, not how to remember. Society gave you a blueprint, a neat, orderly path to follow. Go here, do this, be that. And in return, approval, belonging, a fragile sense of safety. But the price was high. You traded your infinite memory for a fleeting identity. You learned to answer to a name, but forgot the deeper silence from which you came. You were praised for fitting in, not for questioning. You were told what to want before you even knew how to want. And so, you did what they said. You learned the rules, memorized the script. You wore the mask. And somewhere along the way, you began to believe it was your face. The world, beautiful and loud, pulled you in. It told you to succeed, to strive, to shine. It dangled dreams in front of your eyes, wealth, fame, comfort, recognition, as if they held the key to your fulfillment. But no one told you this. Every dream born from fear becomes a nightmare. Because fear is the invisible architect of this illusion. Fear that you're not enough, that you'll be alone, that you'll be forgotten. So you chase, you compare, you conform. And the more you chase, the more distant you become from the part of you that never needed to run, the soul. You see, your soul doesn't care about trophies. It's not here to be impressive. It's not here to play a role. It's here to remember. But remembrance doesn't come from the world outside. It comes in quiet moments, in stillness, in suffering, in questions that refuse to go away. Have you ever looked around and felt like something was missing, even when you had everything? That's your soul knocking. Have you ever achieved a long-desired goal only to feel hollow a few days later? That's the illusion cracking. Have you ever stood under the stars, staring into the dark, and felt something ancient move inside you? That's the memory returning. Because underneath all of this, all the noise and striving and pretending, is a truth too powerful to be silenced. You are not this single life. You are not this fleeting role. You are not even this body. You are something vast, something eternal. And every single hardship, every ache in your chest, every lesson that life repeats is trying to bring you back to that truth. But the illusion doesn't give up easily. It feeds on distraction. It lives in comparison. It thrives in doubt. And so the system keeps spinning. Work, buy, strive, entertain, repeat. It doesn't want you still. It doesn't want you silent. Because silence is dangerous. In silence, you begin to see the mask. In silence, you begin to question the script. In silence, you begin to remember. And so you must make a choice. Not tomorrow, not when life is more convenient, but now. Will you continue sleepwalking through someone else's version of reality? Or will you begin to wake up to your own? The soul doesn't shout. It whispers, it nudges, it waits. But once you begin to listen, really listen, it will guide you. Not with answers, but with presence. Not with noise, but with stillness. And in that stillness, the illusion begins to fade. You stop running. You stop proving. You stop performing. And for the first time in this life, or maybe in many, you begin to just be, to feel, to remember, because the soul has never forgotten. It only waited for you to ask. When the body grows still and the final breath is taken, most believe the story ends. But for the soul, it is only the next chapter. Death, the great unknown, is not an ending. It is a threshold, a veil, a door opening to what lies beyond form, beyond time, beyond forgetting. In the moments after life fades from the body, there is a strange clarity. The soul begins to untangle itself from the layers it once wore. The noise of the world, the identity it believed was real, all of it dissolves. What remains is truth. The soul sees without eyes. It hears without ears. It simply knows. And then comes the review. But this is not judgment as humans imagine it. No booming voice from above. No divine punishment or reward. Instead, the soul is shown its life in full. Not just the events, but the emotions, the intentions, the unseen consequences. You relive every moment, not through memory, but through feeling. Every kind act fills you again with warmth. Every word that hurt another, you feel their pain as if it were your own. You begin to understand the ripple effect of even the smallest choices. How a glance, a gesture, a decision changed someone else's path, and how their path, in turn, affected others. There is no blame here, only realization. It's not about guilt, it's about growth. You begin to see the invisible threads that tied your life together. the karmic bonds, the lessons hidden in joy and sorrow alike. Some souls feel peace in this moment, a sense of release. They see the beauty even in their mistakes, and they're ready to let go. But others hesitate. There are regrets, attachments, wounds left open, and these souls linger, not because they're punished, but because they are not ready to move on. They remain close to the physical plane, clinging to places, people, emotions. These are the spirits felt in old houses, in dreams, in the heavy air of grief. Eventually, though, even the most stubborn soul finds its way home, and what awaits is not fire or clouds, it is light, a realm beyond time, a place where form no longer matters. Some call it the astral plane, others the in-between, the resting field, the second heaven. Here, the soul heals. Here, the confusion clears. Here, the remembering deepens. You are surrounded, though not always in a way your mind can grasp. There are guides, souls who never left your side. There is love, not romantic, but unconditional. There is peace, not absence of noise, but the presence of everything real. And then comes the question, are you done? Have you learned what you needed? Have you balanced the energy you created? If yes, the journey changes. The soul may ascend, moving into realms no longer tied to the human cycle. But most are not done. Most choose to return, and the cycle begins again. Another name, another life, another story. The forgetting returns. But something has changed. Some echo remains, and maybe, just maybe, in that next life, the soul will remember just a little sooner, because some truths cannot be fully forgotten. You may come back with a stronger intuition, a deeper wisdom, a pull toward things you've never learned in this life. That's the echo. Some souls even choose their next incarnation with precision. The body, the location, the parents, all of it set to create the experiences they still need to grow through. This isn't punishment, it's design. And not all souls return immediately. Some rest for what feels like ages. Others re-enter quickly, eager to continue what they've started. And for a few, very few, there is a different choice. They ascend. They move beyond the cycle of reincarnation, stepping into realms where physical form is no longer necessary, where experience is no longer bound to matter, where time becomes meaningless and truth becomes total. But even this is not the end, because there is no end, only deeper becoming, wider knowing, and somewhere far beyond all of this, a light waits. Not ahead, not above, but within. Not every soul chooses to come back. Some do, again and again, pulled by unresolved desires, unfinished stories, the longing to heal or to understand. They are drawn back into form, into body, into experience. But others begin to see the pattern. They recognize the loop for what it is. Not a trap, but a lesson, a mirror, a stage for growth. And when a soul begins to truly see, a new possibility appears. Not an escape, but a transcendence. To break the cycle is not to reject life. It's not to run away or deny the physical world. It's to pass through it, awake. It's to live, not from the mind or the ego, but from awareness. And awareness changes everything. The soul that begins to awaken doesn't lose interest in life. It engages with it more fully, but without attachment, without clinging, without fear. The awakened soul understands that everything in this world is temporary. The joy, the pain, the relationships, the identity. And because it knows this, it can finally be present, fully, deeply, without running. But how does one break the cycle? It begins with remembering. Remembering that you are not this name, not this role, not this moment in time. You are the one who is aware of the name, the one who plays the role, the one who watches time move like a river. And as that remembering deepens, something begins to fall away. The attachments, the illusions, the cravings and aversions. You start to let go, not because you should, but because you see that nothing here is truly yours. Nothing here can stay. You stop chasing meaning and start becoming it. This is detachment, not in the cold, emotionless sense, but in the liberating, compassionate sense. You love, but do not grasp. You create, but do not cling. You live, but are not defined by living. And then, you begin to choose differently. You begin to act not from fear, but from clarity, not from desire, but from knowing. You move through life like someone who remembers the dream, but is no longer lost in it. And the dream begins to change. The suffering lessens, not because life becomes easier, but because resistance fades. You begin to see karma not as punishment, but as cause and effect. A natural consequence, not a judgment. And you stop trying to escape your life. You begin to use it. Every moment, every emotion, every challenge becomes fuel for waking up. Eventually, something strange happens. You no longer fear death, because you've died many times before, in dreams, in identities, in all the moments when who you thought you were dissolved. And if you've truly watched yourself dissolve once, you know that who you are goes far deeper. And so you live differently, freer, softer, lighter. You no longer look to the world to validate you. You no longer beg for approval or chase a future that never arrives. You rest in what is. You discover peace, not in the absence of challenge, but in the presence of awareness. And then the cycle loses its grip, not because the world has changed, but because you have. The moment of death, when it comes again, is not feared. It's familiar, like slipping off an old coat, like returning to a place you never truly left. And when the review comes, it's different. You don't cling, you don't regret, you simply see, you understand, you love. And when the question is asked, will you return? You smile, not from obligation, not from need, but from freedom. You may return not to escape karma, but to serve, to teach, to hold light in dark places. Some souls do that. They come back not for themselves, but for others. These are the guides, the ones who walk among us with calm eyes and quiet hearts, the ones who are not shaken by chaos, the ones who speak with depth that cannot be learned. They've remembered, and they live differently. You can too, not by becoming perfect, not by fixing the world, but by remembering who you are. Again and again, in small moments, in silence, in breath, in kindness, in truth. Until the remembering becomes permanent, until the illusion fades like morning mist, until only presence remains. That is how the cycle ends. Not with a bang, not with a final test, but with the quiet choice to no longer forget. And so, here you are, reading these words, feeling something stir inside you, that ancient pull. You've heard this before, not with ears, but with memory. Because deep down, beneath every lifetime, you've always known you are not trapped, you are only sleeping, and now you are beginning to wake.